Hello, everyone, and welcome to Iraqi Dinar Market. If you're holding Iraqi Dinar right now, I want you to listen carefully because today's update is important, not because of hype, not because of rumors, but because it relates to how banking systems work behind the scenes. Over the years, we have all seen a lot of talk online. Some of it is real information, and some of it is just noise. So on this channel, we keep it simple. We focus on process, we focus on how banks operate, and we stay away from emotional guessing. Now, in this update, people are discussing something that could be a meaningful operational signal: contract rates reportedly showing up on bank screens. Let me be clear from the start. I'm not here to promise any date, and I'm not here to tell you it's happening tonight or it's happening tomorrow. That's not what we do. What I will do is explain in plain English what this claim means, why it could matter if it's true, and how you can stay prepared without falling into scams, confusion, or false expectations. So let's break it down step by step. Right now, across different dinar groups and online discussions, many people are saying this. They're hearing that banks are showing contract rates for the Iraqi dinar on internal screens. In simple words, the claim is that some banking systems are able to display a special rate, not a public rate you see on a currency app, but an internal rate used for certain types of transactions. And that's why the topic is spreading quickly, because for many holders, the idea of any rate appearing inside a bank system feels like movement. But here is the key point you must understand early. Even if a contract rate is visible internally, it does not automatically mean the public rate has changed. It also does not mean every person can walk into a bank and exchange right now. Internal bank information can be used for testing, planning, or limited processes. And that's why we need to discuss this carefully. So before you react emotionally, let's understand what contract rate actually means. So what is a contract rate? A contract rate is basically a special working rate used inside financial systems for specific transactions. It is not always the same as the public market rate. Banks and financial institutions often use internal rates for things like testing their systems, preparing transaction templates, calculating liquidity needs, setting up settlement pathways, and recording how a transaction would appear in their ledgers. Think of it like this. A public rate is what the general public sees on open markets and exchange platforms. A contract rate can be a controlled rate used for planned or restricted transactions, and it may only be visible inside the bank's internal network. So, if a bank system can display a contract rate for a currency, it may suggest that the system is capable of recognizing that currency in its software, assigning a value to it, and processing transactions using that value. That is why people pay attention to this type of report. But again, we have to be careful. The appearance of a contract rate does not confirm a public revaluation. What it can suggest, if confirmed, is that systems may be moving into a more active stage, like testing or preparation. And that's exactly what we'll discuss in the next section of the video. Now, let's talk about why this topic matters. If it's true that contract rates are showing on bank screens internally, then it may be a sign that something important is happening inside the system, not in public, but inside the internal banking network. Here's why. Banks do not display rates for a currency unless their software is able to recognize it in their software, assign a value to it, and process transactions using that value. Because once a rate is visible inside the system, it usually means the bank can do things like record the currency in their internal ledgers, calculate totals based on that rate, run transaction templates, and prepare settlement steps. In other words, it can suggest the system has moved from just being talked about to actually being used or tested. Think of it like this. When a system is in planning, people discuss it. But when a system is in testing, the software starts showing numbers, and processes begin to run behind the scenes. So, contract rates appearing internally can be a sign of operational activity. But remember, this still doesn't mean everyone can exchange right away. It simply means the machine may be turning on in the background, and banks may be confirming that it can run smoothly. And that takes us directly to the next question. What do banks have to test before anything becomes public? Before banks allow real transactions for any major currency process, they do not just flip a switch. They test everything because mistakes in finance are expensive and banks must protect themselves and their customers. Here are the main areas banks normally test. First, staff training. Employees must understand procedures, verification steps, and how to enter transactions correctly. Second, software validation. Banks must confirm their internal system can handle the currency, apply the correct rate, and record everything properly without errors. Third, anti-fraud tools. Banks must be able to detect fake notes, duplicate serial numbers, suspicious patterns, or attempts to exploit the process. Fourth, compliance procedures. Every bank must follow strict regulations like anti-money laundering rules and reporting requirements. Even if a transaction is legitimate, it still needs to be verified and properly documented. So when you hear about contract rates showing up internally, it may mean these steps are already happening or nearing the stage where banks are confident enough to test with limited real activity. But there's one major piece that must be confirmed before any serious exchange process can happen, and that is liquidity. Let's explain liquidity in the simplest way possible. Liquidity means the bank has enough money available to handle exchanges. If thousands or millions of dinar notes are being converted, the bank must be sure it has the reserves, credit lines, or settlement funds to cover those conversions. Because without liquidity, a bank could approve transactions and then fail to deliver payment, and that would create chaos. So before a bank opens any large exchange process, it must verify how much currency can be processed safely, how much money is available, and how the settlement will be backed. This is where reserve verification comes in. Reserve verification is basically the bank confirming we have the financial backing to complete these transactions without breaking the system. This step matters because it separates rumors from reality. Many times people focus on rates, but banks focus on capacity. A bank can display a rate, but if liquidity is not confirmed, large exchanges still won't happen. So if liquidity checks are happening alongside internal contract rate displays, that can be an important operational sign that things are being prepared in a controlled way. Now, we need a clear reality check because this is where many people get confused. Even if contract rates are showing on bank screens internally, this is not the same thing as an official revaluation announcement. It does not mean the government has published a new public rate. It does not mean every bank is open for public exchange. And it does not mean you should rush into any decision based on online hype. Here's the truth. Internal banking systems can display rates for testing or controlled processes long before anything becomes public. So please do not fall for the common headlines like, "It's happening tonight," "It's happening tomorrow," or "It's guaranteed this week." Those messages spread fast, but they can lead people into bad choices, especially scams, fake appointments, and fake exchange centers. On this channel, we stay calm and we stay practical. We watch for real signals, we respect the process, and we wait for official instructions. Now, let's talk about what a realistic rollout could look like if this process is truly moving forward. If banks are showing contract rates internally, then the most realistic path forward is not everything opens at once. Most financial rollouts happen in steps. Here's a simple timeline that many controlled currency processes follow. Step 1. Internal rate display. This means the system can recognize the currency and show a working value. Step 2. Testing and system checks. Banks run internal transactions, confirm software stability, and make sure records are accurate. Step 3. Limited access. If regulators allow it, some banks may process a small number of transactions under strict controls, often for verified or pre-approved cases. Step 4, broader access. If the earlier steps go smoothly, access expands in a bigger way. And here's why banks do it this way. Because opening everything at once can cause system overload, confusion, fraud attempts, and liquidity problems. A phased approach lets banks find mistakes early, fix them, confirm funding capacity, and protect the process from bad actors. So if this movement is real, patience matters because controlled rollouts are designed to avoid shock to the system. Now, while the system does what it does, your role as a holder is simple. Be prepared in a safe, organized way. Let's go through a practical checklist. This is the part that matters most for everyday holders. You don't need rumors to prepare. You need organization. Here is a simple preparation checklist you can start today. First, organize your notes by denomination. Keep the 250s, 500s, thousands, 5,000s, 25,000s, whatever you have, separated and counted clearly. Second, check the condition of your notes. Look for damage, heavy tears, missing corners, or anything that could create problems during verification. Third, keep your identification ready. Make sure your passport or national ID is valid and easy to access. If you have proof of purchase or receipts from where you obtained the currency, keep those stored as well. Fourth, record your totals. Write down how many notes you have and the total amount in dinar. You can do this in a notebook or in a simple spreadsheet, whatever's easiest. Fifth, safe storage is serious. Keep your notes in a secure place that you trust. Don't carry them around and don't show them to people who do not need to see them. Sixth, create digital backups. Scan or photograph your IDs and key paperwork and keep copies in a secure folder. But very important, do not post your notes or documents online, not even in private groups. Being organized does two things. It helps you move faster if official instructions ever come, and it reduces the risk of mistakes, delays, or scams. Now let's talk about what the real banking process usually looks like. If at any point banks begin handling dinar conversions, whether privately or publicly, the process will not be random. It will follow steps, and every step is designed to protect the bank and protect the holder. Here's a simple breakdown of how banks may process an exchange transaction. Step 1. Note verification. The bank will inspect the physical notes for authenticity. They may check security features, paper quality, and serial numbers. In some cases, they may scan the notes into their system. Step 2. Identity verification. The holder must prove who they are. Banks will require valid identification and may ask extra questions depending on local laws. Step 3, applying the rate. Once notes and identity are verified, the bank system applies the approved rate, whether it is a market rate or a contract rate, depending on the process. Step 4, ledger recording. This means the transaction is officially logged. The bank records the currency amount, the rate used, and the full details of the exchange. Finally, after processing is complete, funds are either deposited into an account, credited, or transferred based on the rules of that exchange window. So the big takeaway here is simple. If an exchange happens through real banks, it will always be structured, controlled, and recorded. That's why documentation and identity matter so much, and why compliance plays such a major role. Now, here's something many people don't like to hear, but it's important. Banks will check everything. It's not because they want to make it difficult, it's because they are legally required to protect the financial system. Banks follow rules such as AML, which means anti-money laundering, fraud detection rules, reporting rules for large transactions, and strict documentation requirements. This can include things like logging serial numbers, tracking transaction patterns, verifying identity multiple times, and making sure the funds are going to legitimate accounts. Yes, these checks can slow the process down, but in reality, compliance protects holders from stolen currency being mixed into the system, and it protects legitimate people from being caught in fraud investigations. So if exchange windows ever open, expect the process to be detailed and slow at first. And that brings us to something serious. When people hear words like contract rates and bank screens, scams immediately increase. This section may be the most important part of this entire video. Whenever there's a rumor about exchange activity, scammers move fast. They create fake websites, they create fake forms, they create fake appointments, they create fake bank contacts, and they try to trick holders into handing over notes or paying money. Here are the most common scam signs. Number one, early access offers. If someone claims they can get you early exchange access for a fee, it's a scam. Number two, fake exchange centers. Scammers may claim they have a private office where you can exchange. Real exchanges happen through licensed banks and authorized institutions. Number three, requests for your dinar or documents. Never send your dinar to anyone. Never send ID scans or serial number lists to random people online. And let me say this clearly. A real bank will never ask you to pay private fees into personal accounts. A real bank will not ask you to send your money to a middleman. A real bank will communicate using official contact numbers and official websites. So always confirm information through official sources. Use the bank's official website, verified branch contact details, and official announcements. If you ever feel pressure, urgency, or fear, slow down. Scammers love urgency. Real banks follow formal procedures. Now, if you are holding Iraqi dinar outside Iraq, there are a few extra points you should keep in mind. International exchanges, if they ever open in a wider way, usually involve more paperwork because banks must follow cross-border rules. Depending on your country, you may be asked for additional items like proof of address, proof of citizenship or residency, or documents showing where the currency came from. Also, there is something people often ignore until the last minute: tax and reporting rules. Different countries treat currency gains in different ways. Some may require reporting if the amount is large, some may treat it as taxable income, and others may have different rules depending on your situation. So here's the safe advice. If you ever receive a large amount from a currency conversion, speak with a qualified tax professional in your country so you understand what is required before you move money around. The goal is simple. Stay legal, stay documented, and avoid surprises. All right, let's bring everything together. If contract rates are truly showing on bank screens, that could be an operational sign that systems are being tested or prepared, but it is still only one piece of a much bigger process. Right now, the smartest position for any holder is stay organized, keep your documents ready, store your notes safely, and ignore pressure from rumors or social media hype. Most importantly, protect yourself from scams. Never pay anyone for early access, never send your notes to a third party, and always verify information through official bank contact details. This is Iraqi Dinar Market, and on this channel, we focus on calm, practical updates, step by step, with no fear and no hype. If you found this video helpful, please hit like, subscribe to Iraqi Dinar Market, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next update. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay ready, and I'll see you in the next video.